Dr. Randall, the Soul Doctor, author of Soul Doctoring, Heal Yourself, Heal the Planet, shares her 40 years of experience as a cross-cultural practitioner, medical futurist, and expert in 20 different modalities of healing, along with amazing interviews with some of the leading minds in medicine and big thinkers in all walks of life. The stories of our lives are the woven energies of our soul's paths. They feed and ignite the spiritual light that nourishes the universal soul, the one mind, the cosmic consciousness where we all come together. This podcast is going to be a deep dive into the personal stories of people who have made significant contributions to the planet. What formed them? What moved them to become these leaders and innovators that inspire us so? Well, hello, Danielle. This is so exciting for me, kind of a reunion for us in a way, because you had me on your podcast in 2017.
That's right.
And we talked about, of all things, leaky gut, which was still not completely accepted at that point. Now everybody talks about leaky gut, right? Everybody's a gut doctor, but that was kind of innovative for then and there. And we had a lot of fun that day.
It was. You are the pioneer, and people weren't talking about it then, but now it's all everybody's talking about. So that was great to have you on. I'm delighted.
Right. Well, let me introduce you because you are so many things.
Thank you.
And so many things to so many people, you know, apart from being an absolute rock star Black woman leader of our community and the world, you are Doctor of Theology, Dr. Delaney, but it's okay if I call you Danielle, isn't it?
Yes, it is. But of course, Gail. Yes.
Thank you. And you're certified in crisis intervention. You're a specialist in addiction recovery and aftercare. As a matter of fact, I think our paths first crossed in addiction care when I was the medical director at Passages.
Yes.
Rehab and detoxification. And, you know, we shared a client.
Yes, we did. I had him for aftercare. Yes, I did.
Right. And that's where our paths first crossed. Yeah. So we thank them for bringing us together.
Absolutely.
And you're also, been just an outstanding rape crisis counselor, interfaith spiritual counselor, a sober coach, an interventionalist. You specialize in, this just blows me away, in areas of adults molested as children, as well as LGBTQ. Now, I had to study to understand that.
Yes.
It's lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transsexuals, and they add in the Q for people that don't quite know where they belong, so to cover everybody.
Yes, it's questioning, exactly.
So you cover everybody, and that's just beautiful to me. You help these people who are in such dire straits, and you know exactly what to do. You remind me of me in a way that you've diversified yourself and you're holistic.
Yes, thank you for that. It's an honor for you to say that. So thank you.
Well, when we met at Passages, you know, I was the first doctor to bring holistic medicine into alcohol and rehab detoxification.
I know you.
You know, Red
I know you.
Center, and that's how they became holistic and looking for the root cause and have holistic as part of their menu. And of course, you were doing it anyway in your own way. You were already adding the holistic piece from your venue, and it's just so admirable, all of the groundbreaking stuff you've done. You also work with just about everybody, individuals, families, couples, seeking healing and resolution to their challenges. And these are not easy problems.
No, they're not.
But she handles it so deftly. If I have a client, I want her.
Thank you.
She also founded the Real Deal with Danielle Delaney podcast on Voice of America, which you can still listen to if you want to.
Yes.
She is an award-winning author of a book called Expect Delays, How to Reclaim Your Life, Light and Soul After Trauma. Well, I just love that title.
Thank you.
They call me the Soul Doctor, and that's not about music.
Right. It's all about reclaiming your soul. When you go through traumatic experiences or chemical dependency, people tend to lose that light and that life and that soul.
Yes.
So I wanted to write about how to reclaim that when you've been through a lot.
So awesome.
Big part of healing.
she's currently working on her second book. I'm not sure if it has a name. She'll tell us.
I will.
And she holds the distinction, and I love this, of being the youngest and only woman of color to own a sober companioning business in the United States of America. That's
you.
something.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm pleased
Her
to be the only one.
Received her, and I'm just so happy to have her now that we've taken up all the time with all the things she does.
Thank you.
Well, we get to talk to her, but I actually want to, I'm going to be the person that asks the questions for a change.
This
so I'm
time
going
you get to interview me. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn the tables on you a little bit because I really want to hear about Danielle.
Okay.
I want to hear your story, your soul path.
Ask me anything.
Where it started, where you came from, what inspired you, what formed you, what made you into this incredible person that you are now that inspires us. So where were you born? Where are you from?
I'm born and raised in LA. I'm a native Angelino. I was born actually in Pasadena, California, and lived there until I was about 5 years old. And then my father, who's a cardiologist, and he's a doctor, Dr. Richard Allen Williams, he became assistant chief of cardiology at the VA Wadsworth. So we moved to Encino Hills, up by Bel Air, up by the Getty Center Drive.
When was that?
When I was 5 years old.
Okay.
5 years old. So 1973.
Yeah.
52 now.
Because some years later, I was the head of gastroenterology there at the VA Wadsworth.
I know. And then also, you were a professor at UCLA, as is my father, professor of cardiology.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
I'll have to connect you two at some point. I'm surprised if you don't know each other already. But
well, I know he's an amazing guy just from watching you.
Thank you.
On social or whatever, you're always speaking about your father. So he must have been quite an influence on you. Is that correct?
He still is. And it's wonderful that I'm fortunate to still have both of my parents. And my mom is an artist and a sculptor. She carves stone. She's very Mother Earth and just an amazing woman as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm a product of the two of them. And I grew up there in Encino Hills and Bel Air area. And went to school, elementary, junior high, high school, all of that in the San Fernando Valley. And that's where it all began. And then UCLA after that. So it's just been quite a ride. But there's a lot of experiences that created the person you see here today. I went through a lot of trauma in my 30s, and that's what led me to my work. So I'm happy to expand on it. And that's what I wrote about in my book, Expect Delays, How to Reclaim Your Life, Light, and Soul.
Yeah, we would like to hear about that.
Okay. Well, I was an actress.
Sometimes it's the painful things that shape us the most, isn't it? Yeah. And that, of course, we've all had them, and I've had my share of different trauma, different than you, but I look back to that as being the thing that influenced me the most. Like I had a near-death experience at birth.
Yes. Oh, God.
That I remember, and so that I remember seeing the kind ones. And so I want to hear about your
intense, Gail. That's very intense to have a birth injury and birth trauma. That's very deep and heavy. Mine was not until I was in my late 30s. I was 37. It was in 2005. And I was kidnapped from a red carpet event. I was an actress at the time. I'd been acting and modeling from 17 to 37. So I had 20 years in the Screen Actors Guild and doing print modeling and small television parts. And that was my world. That was what I was doing. I had studied psych at UCLA in my undergrad, but I had veered into the acting world at 17. So that really took over for me. And that's what I was doing from 17 to 37. So for a good 20 years. And I was taken from that party in a limousine against my will and assaulted repeatedly. It was a group of men in that car. So that's what the first chapter.
Do you know these people?
No, complete strangers. So obviously I was at a party. This was in my party days, and I was intoxicated, which does not give anyone the right to hurt you. I'm constantly telling clients it's not what you drank, it's not what you wore. It's the choice of a perpetrator to take away yours, to take away your choice. So there's no blame or shame in that. It's just what happened. And they threw me from the moving car going about 55, according to the police and all of the information they put together. And I was beaten horribly beyond recognition. So it's actually kidnap, assault, and attempted murder, but they never caught them. So to heal from that, I lost consciousness, but I woke up and was barefoot. They had taken my shoes, they had taken my purse, my clothes were ripped open. I'd been through hell basically in that car, and had a head injury, was bleeding horribly and disfigured in the face area, just beaten horribly. And I managed to walk home. I don't know how, but I did. And the rest of it's in the book, to tell you the truth. I don't want to get into too lengthy of an explanation here since we have limited time, but I ended up going to group therapy, individual therapy, post-traumatic stress disorder was an issue, just healing. I couldn't work. I couldn't function. I was going through a lot, flashbacks, trauma, all of it. So after many, many attempts at seeing doctors to help me heal, I found one PTSD specialist and trauma specialist, and he was amazing. He was the best thing that could have happened to me. And I started to heal slowly but surely, and did some EMDR, did a lot of CBT, therapy, cognitive behavioral talk therapy, and also group therapy. And I realized while I was at group, there were some things they weren't doing in a way I found cohesive and helpful, such as I thought we should all walk to the parking together in pairs of two. They didn't have any security, and it was at night in downtown LA. So you don't need trauma on top of the trauma when you go to group for trauma. So I would sort of direct and say, why don't you two walk together? You two walk together. I was sort of planning things, and I realized I'm kind of running these meetings at some point. And I realized that was a field I wanted to get into. And I had a couple speaking engagements about what happened to me. And after speaking, I was approached by a school called Sexual Assault Crisis Agency. And they said, people are wondering if you can sit down and they can come and talk to you about what you're speaking about. And would you like to go through our academy and possibly work with us? So I did that work and ended up holding the hands of the rape victims coming for the rape kit, and working with forensic nurses and working with the police, giving part of the reports, things they wouldn't tell the police, they may tell me. And you're just specially trained to deal with special victims. So that's where it began. And then part of my internship is the rape and suicide hotlines. And I recognized pretty quickly that everyone was intoxicated and self-medicating while they're doing their phone calls to the rape and suicide hotlines looking for help. So addiction really overlaps with trauma, as you know. And once that light bulb went off, I realized I needed to go back to school for certifications and licensing with addiction and recovery to overlap with my trauma healing modalities, and they go hand in hand. So that.
Well, thank God you did. Thank God you did.
Thank you. It was a lot, and it distracted me from myself, quite honestly. And my family was worried I would be triggered by going to hold the hands of rape victims. And I actually said, no, it's being with someone on their worst possible day. I wish I had an advocate to be there that way. And so it was being with people at their worst moment and walking them back through that. And often you weren't allowed to be in touch with them after that. So that was a tough part for me. And I thought, when I have my own clients, I really just want to be hands-on and see what they're dealing with and help them through everything. And that was just a huge turning point for me to start working one-on-one with special victims, and then also addiction recovery aftercare. And friends who worked in recovery at Passages, at other rehabs, there's 60 or 70 of them in Malibu, started calling me to come in and meet with clients, to do meetings and arrange aftercare, and to collaborate with the therapists there so that they'd have, a cohesive plan and have someone to work with week by week after they leave the facilities.
It's just so interesting to me the way, that the one-on-one, the connection, and the continued consistency of the connection is what really heals people. And that, you recognize that on your own.
Thank you. Yes, I did. And it was because of my own experience. And I didn't want to be an LMFT. I wanted to be a counselor because it gives me more flexibility. I don't like that they have to be more of a blank slate. I encourage my clients, not on their time, But when the hour is up, if it's a first session, when the hour is up, I like them to be able to ask me questions, because I remember really wondering, who is this person? What is their history? Do they only know all of this from book learning, or is it their life experience? What do they know about me? How will they relate to me? And I remember that feeling. I had many therapists before I found the right one. And I tell people, shop around. It has to work for you. It really has to be a fit.
Yeah.
And I think that's so important. And I also really wanted to be present for them on a different level. And so since I have private practice, I can work the hours I want to and be as available as I want to be, which is, sometimes too much. I tend to be a little bit of a workaholic.
Right. But that you meet the people where they are.
Yes. That's so important. That's exactly right.
And it's that consistency again. I admire that. I mean, I'm like that too. So
I know that you are. I think I love that quality about you. And sometimes I wish I could turn it off in myself, but I really care how they're doing. And I have to force myself, to take time off and do a digital detox and turn things off. But it's
right.
Crisis intervention. It doesn't know a schedule really. So I have my scheduled appointments day to day, but things pop up. They're going to. And I also do interventions, and I also run my sober companioning and wellness concierge business. So I'm sending people all over the place to fly someone into treatment or to go stay with them when they go back to their own homes. And I have a staff of people that do that sort of fit different personalities. I say it's like being Heidi Fleiss, but for addiction. And you got to find the right fit, or it's not going to work for them to have someone in their home that's right next to them and by their side, helping them through this when they heal. So it's got to be done very delicately. I try to meet each one on one-on-one so I can fit them with the proper companion or wellness concierge. And it really works, but it does mean it's round the clock sometimes. I have people in Boston right now, and in Palm Springs right now, and in Laguna right now, and in Seattle right now. And they're working with clients of mine, and then I have my own sessions. So it's a lot, how it is. We also keep our charts and our notes and all of that, and emergencies come up, but I love it. I'm never bored. Never, ever bored.
Well, there's no question that you're an incredible organizer, and, you've formed your company to be very successful, but you said something really that meaningful to me. You said the word care. Now, do you think that's something you were born with, or did that come from, because that you can't, it's hard to teach people.
Right. I think you're right about that. I think you're right. I'm an empath. I very deeply care for other human beings. I care what becomes of people. I care about the homeless on the street. I care about my loved ones and my family members. I care sometimes about people that don't care about me, and that's unfortunate, but it is, I think it is an innate thing that you're either someone who cares deeply or you're someone who doesn't. And I believe people who get into any kind of medicine, therapy, addiction, care, aftercare, mental health care, holistic health, we really have to be healers and have to be people who care about others, or it's going to show. It's going to come through somehow. You're just not available, don't care about the people, not patient. It's very evident if someone doesn't care. And I just think people that are not into it shouldn't be in this field. And I've heard people say that, I wish I had a restaurant still, or I'm really tired of these people. And I usually do say to them, I'm not shy. And I will say, if that's what you want to do, you should do it. People in this field, in the healing of people, you need to care about them. If you don't like these people, get out. There are those of us who do, and let us take care of them.
Right.
It's really a deep thing to be trusted with people's personal history and secrets. And I know you feel the same way. It's a deep connection you have with them.
Well, that's another key word, trust, because people that have been through what you've been through often don't have trust. And especially when they get into their addiction, then it just becomes all about addiction, takes precedence over other people. But, we know, that's not really who they are. But it takes a lot of, fortitude to hang in there with them, and a lot of caring.
Yeah. Yeah,
but that's
I
what
remember.
changes them ultimately.
Yes.
And that's what makes you so
Well,
special.
thank you. It's what makes you so special too. And it honestly comes from having had the experience myself. I think my schooling and training is, it's absolutely invaluable, but so is my life experience. And I am not one of those people who will say, "Oh, I'm so grateful that that happened to me." I'm just not that person. I could have learned my lessons any old way other than going through the horror of what I experienced. But I
Right.
will always say that the experience is what led me to my work. And I will always
Mhm.
say that it was a divine delay in my life. And people have delays in their life, but they don't understand why they can't have it now or why this has
Mhm.
happened to them. And once I learned the statistics, I realized it's why not? I mean, the statistics are so
Mhm.
high for being assaulted, for women being assaulted. And I just realized,
What are the
well, they
statistics,
used to
Danielle?
be 1 in 3, and now it's more. It's about 50% of women and in their lifetime. And
Wow.
I'm from a family of my mother, and there are 3 daughters and a son. So if it was going to be one of the 4 of us, you know, it ended up being not yours truly. And I look at that. I have a sister who was born with a disability. I have a sister who's had brain tumors over these past few years. I have a brother with multiple sclerosis. I'm probably the most capable of fighting back. And
Mhm.
I did. I fought for my life and I won. And fortunately, I'm here to tell the tale. And I really feel that it is a responsibility to pay that experience forward. And I've had mothers call me saying their daughters aren't sleeping, their son was assaulted, he has PTSD, they no longer trust their family, they're getting into drugs or alcohol. And sometimes it's just all of the above. And they really need someone who understands that territory firsthand.
Mhm.
And sometimes they say, "I read your book, I found it somewhere, or I heard your podcast, or I read an article you wrote." Something brought them to me, and they'll find me anywhere from Instagram to Twitter to Facebook, whatever. And Psychology Today, I'm listed there. And sometimes they find me in the most random ways, but I get that inbox message or I get that phone call, and I feel a responsibility because I do know the territory so well. I really
Mhm.
do. I
Mhm.
remember being a trauma survivor and being in pain and self medicating and not wanting to wake up and be me another day.
Mhm.
And so I know what that's like. I know what that's like. Suicidality, addiction, all of it. And I'm living proof that you can come through the other side, not just well, but very well, and living to tell about it and to pay it forward.
Yes. Beautiful. Beautiful. I talk about in my book, um, there's a chapter, and I quote Elizabeth Barrett Browning. I don't know if you're familiar with this.
Yes.
She talks about illness like a gauntlet with a gift in it.
Yes.
And I know you like you say, I'm not one of these people that's going to say thanks, but then you went on to say that it did push you,
Mm-hmm.
your development into being who you are, and
It did.
so you are our gift.
Oh, I thank you. I find you to be a gift too. So, yeah, I'm just so grateful for you and for all the healing that you bring to the world and the soul healing, because it really is your soul. I mean, it's a soul injury when you are assaulted. It's a soul injury when you turn to spirits, as they are called, liquor and spirits and pills and
Mhm.
drugs. They all injure the spirit and the soul. And to get to a place where you begin to heal that and to understand that is a really unique thing. And those who
Mhm.
have done it, we're on a different side of it now, and we can look back at it and think, I was actually in hell. I didn't want to be here anymore, but it's because I wasn't here. I was there. I was in that moment. You get stuck in the moment of the trauma.
Mhm.
So I always remind people, you're not a tree. You are not stuck. We can move forward. We can move along. So it's just a matter of taking that first step. And it's often really hard to do alone. So they look to holistic healers to really try to help them reach their best self.
Mhm.
Really important that
Yeah.
we're here to do that for them. And people need it. And they just are so lost when they come to me, and I can see it. I can just see it in their
Mhm.
eyes. And you just want to really help them get back to who they used to be. And I love
Mhm.
being able to be proof positive that it can be done.
Right. You certainly are. You certainly are. I like to tell them, you're not going to be who you used to be you're going to be who you're going to be.
I think that's so important. That's so true, because that girl is gone. I mean, I'm just not that girl anymore. I'm not that woman, I should say. But I was actually surprised it took until 37 years old, when I look back at the history of the people I was around, the things I was attending, the events. There's just a lot of very, very unwell people out there in the world, and a lot of very predatory people in the entertainment industry. And I am fortunate that it took until I was 37 years old, to be quite honest. There are so many things that could have happened to me 17 to 37 in those 20 years. And it brought some beautiful things to my life, but it also brought some horror to my life. And that was a really, really tough thing to go through. But when you walk through it and come out the other side, you are a different person. And it's, survival of the fittest, really. It's Darwinism at work, is if you have the resilience and if you can get through, then there is a gift on the other side, because you're now a member of a club you never wanted to join, right? When you've gone through extreme trauma, you know some things and have seen some things that people who haven't been through it just don't relate to. So it's really very helpful to have any kind of practitioner in your life, a clinician who understands it, such as yourself. We just need to be there for them, because they need someone who really gets it and can walk them through to the other side.
Yeah, I had nothing like the trauma you had, but I was assaulted in my life. So it's interesting, the statistics you mentioned.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, like you said, I lived through it, and I dealt with it, and I became stronger because of it. But, we've had other traumas.
Right? Sometimes our trauma has trauma, and that's just the way it is. And I write that in my book as well. Don't expect it to stop just because now you're healing from trauma. Don't expect it. You won't have a loss in your life, an injury, loss of a loved one, heartache, or anything happen, because trauma can have trauma. Life does not stop for you. And that it's like, toughen up, cupcake. Some of it is you've got to deal with life. It's coming at you fast and furious, and you can't expect it to pause because something horrible happened to you. And
exactly,
I actually had it happen more than once. Something happened again 19 months later that was not the same, but similar. And I love that when you said something happened to you, that you were assaulted, and I said, I'm so sorry, that you didn't say, it's okay. Because people so often say, oh, it's okay. And I have to tell them, no, it's not okay. It's not okay.
No, it's not
okay. Supposed to be in the...
It's not ever okay.
In your life. It's not ever okay. And that's the first thing I say when they start to say, it's okay. I say, it is not okay. You don't have to say that. We're so used to worrying about everyone's response to us and how they receive us that people say, oh, it's okay. No, it's not. It's really not.
No, it's not. So, you said some other key things. You mentioned the word resilience, which I'm really into. So what other than your just incredible endogenous strength that you were born with, but what do you do that makes you so resilient? What are your secrets?
Wow. Well, back then, that's an excellent question. I think back then it was that I did have the strength to deal with rejection as an actor, and that I dealt with that as an actor and a model. There's always someone younger, prettier, more entertaining, the new kid on the block, the nepotism, someone's niece, nephew, whatever, they may get the part. And so you learn to accept that things are not always going to go your way. So I think I already had that going for me because I had 20 years in the industry. Other than that, I also think it's my ancestry. My parents come from some very strong stock. And so my history and my ancestors, I think, lend a large amount of that resilience that you just have in your DNA as a woman of color, as a Black woman. I mean,
well, certainly you're genetically gifted, but what you must have practices. You must have.
I do. You're right. I do. I do meditate. I'm not great at it, I will admit. I'm always a work in progress, so I'm learning to quiet my mind, and I do different modalities of that. So I'm learning that. I'm in the process with that. I do a lot of walking and cycling. I cycle inside. I'm not great at bicycles, so it's stationary, but I do that and I swim. I'm a scuba diver and I love to swim.
I love
So
scuba diving.
isn't it the best? Isn't it the best? 8 feet down, I'm more comfortable than I am on the land. But we'll have to scuba together sometime. We'll have
Oh, I'd love
have
that.
to do that. So
Yeah, I'm open water certified.
yes, me too.
PADI.
PADI certified. We'll have to do that. That would be wonderful. So I used to ride horses. I love watching you ride. So it's that communing with nature and being able to enjoy that helps a lot. But I can't say I'm someone who camps or enjoys nature in that aspect. I'm very much into the luxury and comforts, but I do like the water. So having a pool is huge for me. Just to be able to jump in the water and swim and brings a lot of peace and calm. So I do love that.
Well, water is all about interconnectedness. It's the cosmic consciousness.
Yes.
The dolphins sing the song over the water to keep the song of the cosmic consciousness alive, and diving is very much about nature and interconnectedness.
And I actually will pick up things underwater, like with squirmy legs, things that I would not entertain on land. And I've had pictures taken underwater and thought, why am I holding that? But everything is fascinating. It's like being on another planet, and all you can hear is your breath and your heartbeat. It's very, very meditative. So I haven't done it in a while. I actually need to do that because I only like to do it in tropical climates. So once travel comes back, I'm in. But for now, it's the pool, and they've actually closed the pool at my building right now. So it's pedaling and cycling, but movement in any form, I think it just keeps that flow going. It's healthy. And I stick to a very healthy diet, just trying to take care of myself in general. I can't take care of anyone else unless I take care of myself first. That can't pour from an empty vessel, right? So there's that. And I believe in therapy. I think every therapist should be in therapy. And I will always have therapy appointments and little tune-ups and conversations about what's going on so that I can...
That's the luxury right there.
It is. And you have to be on top of what's going on with yourself in order to be on top of a corporation that you have and send people all over the world and talk to people all over the world and do all of it. It's not possible if I'm not well. So my wellness is very important. And that is vitamins, supplements, swimming, getting enough sleep. I don't have children, so I do sleep. And that's a huge point, that I do get my 8 hours of sleep. And it's important to me. I don't know if I could do without it. So that's the most important to me, is to make sure I get a full night's sleep and good nutrition and balance in all things. I think that's...
Do you have any significant others in your life?
I do. I keep my personal life very personal, but I do indeed. So that's good too. That's part of balance, I believe. I think having someone in your life that helps to heal your soul, that's there for you when you have hard moments and difficult times, that you can confide in and just listen to music and lie peacefully beside someone with the knowledge that you're safe. That's so important. So,
and friends help.
Have to have a social life, which right now in this pandemic is a very difficult thing. I think connection is important, whether it's your significant other or whether it's friends and family, just making sure to connect every day with someone. And sometimes they need it more than you. Yeah, they may need it more than you, but it's important, really important to do.
Yeah. I tell people, they call it social distancing. I said, this is a bad word. We should call it physical distancing.
Right. You can be social on Zoom or on the phone.
Yeah. To emphasize, to remain connected.
Yes.
Because that's what makes us human and humanity and more healthy and resilient.
Yes. I think connection is so healing. To be isolated is very painful for most people after a while. I mean, I'm an extroverted introvert. I really do prefer time alone to recharge. And then I can get back out there and have meetings or be extroverted if need be. But I'm very at peace with hobbies and books and peace and my time to myself. I find that really important. But I also have a sort of a limit to that too, where, some days will go by and I'll think I need to connect to more people. I can only take so many days off without reaching out. And I speak to my parents every night. I'm so fortunate to still have them in their 80s that I like to talk to them every evening.
Lovely. So yeah, it's important to like yourself and enjoy spending time with yourself. I think as some people just can't be alone.
It's true. And you're going to be with you for the rest of your life. So you need to learn everyone needs to learn to tolerate themselves more than tolerate, to love yourself. And if you love yourself first, you're not going to have bad relationships and toxic friendships. And if you love yourself, you're going to treat your body as a temple. It's the only one you get, and you need to treat it well, and your mind and your soul. So it's the whole package and holistic, right? And it's so important to start with that. And some people really don't love themselves. And that's the work that we do on that kind of a situation, is learning to care about yourself. And you have to kind of face people and say, why don't you care about yourself? Why don't you like yourself? What happened? And it's getting to the root of it, and working on that root cause is what's going to heal people ultimately.
Yes. Yeah. So you understand this. I'll often ask people, so if your best friend came to you and they did something wrong, and something that, that even you felt was wrong, on a 1 to 10 scale, how apt are you to forgive them? Usually people say, 10. And then you go, okay. So then if it was you that made that wrongdoing, what would you give yourself? And people would be like 0 or 1 or whatever. And then I try to get them to associate that they are their best friend as well.
Good. That's really good, because it's so important. If you don't care about yourself and forgive yourself for things that you've done, especially also with special victims and trauma that happens to women and men that's of a sexual nature, and also AMAC, adults molested as children, AMACs often blame themselves, which is horrible. They're a child when this happened to them. And it's so important for them to forgive themselves and to recognize and to realize they weren't given a choice. And it's a really tough place to be if you're blaming yourself for anything that's happened to you or been done to you. And I think that's such an important place to start with what would you say to a best friend of yours, or would you forgive them? And I often also think, as far as what would you say to a friend, is to treat yourself like the little tiny version of yourself. Look at pictures, tell them, make your screensaver yourself at age 4 or 5, because maybe you liked yourself, or you can look at that little person and think, what does she or he need? And be kind to him, or be thoughtful of him, and be forgiving of him, and give him what he needs. And sometimes just that shift of seeing themselves as this young version of themselves, they'll be a little more compassionate to themselves, because people are hard on themselves. Really sad to see how hard someone will be on themselves.
Right. So get them to understand that inward flowing compassion is just as important as outward flowing compassion.
Exactly. And that they can make changes. We're all flexible and able to change as long as we'll look inward and work on ourselves. And, it's, you don't have to have you can go so far down the wrong path and still turn around. As long as you can recognize that that's what you need to do, you're completely capable of it. You can change anything in your life if you put the work in to do it. You can change the people in your life if they're toxic and not healthy for you. You can change so much. It's just all about taking the steps to do it. And sometimes people need a little support to do that. And that's what I'm here for. Life stage transitions can be really tricky, going through changes. People need support through that.
So is there a person or persons that influenced you the most, do you think, helped shape you, who you are today?
Let me think about that a little bit. I would have to say, well, one of them was my doctor, Dr. Minton. He's retired now, but I loved that he would see me when I had nothing. I mean, they stole my purse too. So they did fraud on all my accounts to add insult to physical injury. And nobody was thinking about that for a few days. So, we were thinking about me in the hospital. We weren't thinking so much about my stuff. And that was tough. I had to rebuild everything. So my life was, as I knew it, was honestly, my first chapter was called Demolition, because it was demolished as I knew it. And to have a doctor who I found that would say, pay what you can and still wanted to see me and really work with this post-traumatic stress and really help me to heal was so invaluable at that time in my life that I take a few pro bonos every year. I can't take a lot. I have a business manager that won't let me, but I do make it a point of, helping some people who can't afford it, because it's not fair that it's not available to all people. And sometimes they really do need someone who's also experienced it. So
I need your business manager.
Yeah. Why? Do you do that and you're not supposed to?
Too much.
Yeah, I've had to stop. He really watches me and my time on the phone and make sure things are billable. But I love what I do and I get caught up. So
well, it's so hard when we're givers and then people need us, but then we've got to also be sustainable.
Yes.
And some people don't understand that.
They don't get it, and they don't have to. But I have a lot of overhead. I have companies. I have things to take care of. I have staff. I have payroll. I have things. And then
it's for the benefit of all the people that we sustain ourselves and our businesses.
And we can't do it well if we're doing it too much. If it's too spread out, we have to be able to make it sustainable. You're right. So there's that. And I think that he was a huge influence on me. So that doctor was a very big influence on me. I thought, I want to do what he does. And I liked that he was also very personable, and my modalities sort of, shoes off, sit down, we're going to talk about this. And I don't like to put people behind someone if it's their first session, because the first session may run long, and that's understandable. I need to really know who they are, and they need to know who they're working with. So I think that doctor was a huge influence, and my father being a doctor was a big influence. I've watched how passionate he is about caring for people and from all different walks of life. And that's very important. And then also my mother, just her compassion and love is what saved me. I stayed with her while I was healing. And that was just absolutely a turning point. So I think my parents and that doctor who really worked with me on trauma and PTSD, those are my big influences. And I'm so grateful for them.
You're angels.
They really are. They really are. I wouldn't be here otherwise.
Right.
Yeah.
So is there a female role model out there that you look up to?
Well, you're definitely one of them.
Oh, you're so sweet.
Well, I'm not being sweet. I'm telling you the truth. So, you're very inspiring. You've been a pioneer in so much of holistic wellness and in soul healing. So that has definitely made an impression on me, I have to say. So there's you. And then there are others. There are my mother, as I've said. And gosh, I'll have to really think on that one. I'll have to give you a better answer on that later. But they're all around me. I mean, women are powerful. We're the source of all life. So there's a lot of women who've truly inspired me because we are so powerful and so strong.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it interesting how so many women, particularly women of color, have come forward in the political scene as of late?
Absolutely. And Michelle Obama, I can say, is a huge influence.
Oh, she's amazing. But I find that to be inspiring.
Yes, I do too. It makes me think of that expression that they say, that saying, I should say, about Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, that she did everything he did, but in heels and backwards. We have this extra challenge. We have an extra challenge, and women have never been thought of as equal for so long. And you have that to fight against and to make it a strength rather than a weakness. And we are doing everything they're doing in heels and backwards. So it's a lot of extra work, and it's commendable to be able to do what you've done in a man's world in medicine in that way.
Right. I remember giving another talk similar, like at the New Orleans Digestive Disease Week. They have like 5,000 people attending these sessions. And I had 10 minutes to give my paper. And I was a cute girl back then. But I didn't think of myself that way. I just thought, I'm going to present this paper. And I was really into the science. And then, of course, what I heard coming back the other way is they said to my mentor, so you got a tall, good-looking blonde so that you could get on the roster here? And I thought,
serious.
That wasn't
No,
nice.
sometimes it's not nice. And I'll tell you, I've dealt with my fair share of sexism. I've dealt with my fair share of racism. Um,
How do you deal with that?
I just keep doing what I'm doing. I really can't let it affect me too much. It used to be shocking, but it's not that shocking. And people say, "Really, you're dealing with racism?" I'm like, yeah, I've been Black the whole time, the entire time. So it's definitely not new, but it's an experience, and it's unfortunate, but it's something that also creates a strength. And I just can't let it take me down. But it means, like Ginger
Yeah.
Rogers having to do everything backwards and in heels. It's having something extra to make sure that people show that, understand that you're deserving of respect. And it makes me really want to do my work well. And so I'm not questioned in any way. And it makes you want to be impeccable with your work and your word. And I am. So it's been an experience, I'll tell you, but it's definitely something I've dealt with in my history.
You must have a great feeling of satisfaction, going through what you went through, learning what you learned, and seeing all the people that have been able to be helped by you.
Thank you for that. I do. I feel a great sense of pride and satisfaction in that. And I didn't know if I was going to make it at certain points in those years. I really didn't. The depression was very difficult. Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's very tough. And I tell my rape survivors and molestation survivors, there's something called RTS, rape trauma syndrome, that is cyclical, that is different than PTSD, and that can circle back from a trigger like a smell or the time of year. The time of year can really be triggering, whether they know the dates or not. It's the smell in the air. It's the body remembers, and it's the senses picking up on things and having that sense memory. And I had a lot of that going on in the beginning, and it'll still come around sometimes. I'm not immune. So I was not certain. So it really is a great sense of satisfaction I feel in coming through the other side. I truly do. And I love being able to be living proof. It's such a great place to be. A really great place to be.
Well, thank you for being an example for all of us, being that living proof. And thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor and a privilege.
You're just a phenom, lady.
What's that?
You're just a phenom.
Oh, thank you. So are you. It's amazing to be working with you in any capacity. I loved having you on my show. I love when we collaborate on a patient's care. And I love doing this and being on your show. It's honestly such a privilege. And it's just great to work with you always.
Well, it's very auspicious too, because it's the new year.
Yes, it is.
And together we're saying goodbye to 2020.
Oh, good riddance.
Thank goodness. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you, God. Amen. Thank you, God. Amen. And hello to 2021.
Hello to 2021. Now, if any of the listeners out there would like to find me, it's pretty easy. I am reachable at DanielleDelaneyCounseling.com. And that's Delaney with an EY. And I am on Instagram at Danny Delaney, DaniDelaney. Facebook.com/Danielle.Delaney, and Twitter, I'm at It's Danny Delaney. So I'm very reachable, and through my website, all of those social media handles are on my website. So DanielleDelaneyCounseling.com has everything.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the new book?
The next book, well, I'm currently writing it. The next book is Don't Call Me Crying from Your Bentley. And that book should be out in 2022.
Lovely. Lovely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll stay in touch,
Absolutely.
pretty lady.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Love you back.
Bye.
Bye.